The large meeting room fell silent as Captain James Miller walked to the center stage. His boots made soft sounds against the polished floor, each step echoing in the quiet chamber. The United Earth Defense Council members watched him from their elevated seats, their faces showing a mix of boredom and mild interest. Miller knew that look well. It was the same look he had seen countless times when presenting his ideas. He stopped at the podium and pressed a button on his remote. The huge screen behind him lit up, showing the image of a spaceship unlike anything the council had ever seen. Whispers filled the room, followed by poorly hidden chuckles. "This is the Tortoise," Miller said, his voice steady despite the growing murmurs. "A new class of defensive warship that will change how we fight in space." The ship on the screen looked nothing like the sleek, arrow-shaped warships that Earth's fleet currently used. Instead, it was bulky and angular, with odd geometric patterns covering its hull. It reminded some council members of old Earth tanks, while others thought it looked like a child's drawing brought to life. Captain Miller, one of the council members, spoke up, not bothering to hide his smirk. "Are you sure you haven't accidentally shown us your son's spacecraft design project?" Laughter erupted in the chamber. Miller had expected this reaction, but it still stung. He waited for the laughter to die down before continuing. "The Tortoise may not look pretty," he admitted, "but its design serves a purpose. Every angle, every seemingly awkward surface, is part of an integrated defense system unlike anything we've ever built." He clicked to the next slide, showing technical diagrams. Traditional ships try to dodge enemy fire or absorb it with energy shields. The Tortoise does something different. It uses the enemy's attacks to make itself stronger. "That's impossible," another council member interrupted. "You can't just magically turn enemy weapons' fire into defensive power." Miller smiled. "Not magic. Science." He pointed to the geometric patterns on the hull. "These surfaces are made of a new composite material. When hit by energy weapons, they don't just absorb the impact. They channel it, redistribute it, and store it for later use." Admiral Thompson leaned forward in his seat, his eyes narrowing as he studied the diagrams. Unlike his colleagues, he wasn't laughing. After 40 years in space combat, he had learned that sometimes the strangest ideas were the most brilliant ones. "Continue, Captain," Thompson said, silencing the other council members with a raised hand. Miller nodded gratefully. "Think about how we currently fight in space. We build faster ships, bigger guns, stronger shields. But what if we could turn an enemy's strength against them? The harder they hit us, the stronger we become." He played a simulation showing the Tortoise in action. Energy beams struck its hull, and instead of causing damage, they seemed to flow across the geometric patterns like water in a channel. The energy was visibly absorbed and stored in special chambers within the ship. "This is ridiculous," one of the senior council members stood up. "We need real warships, not some fancy light show. The threats we face require proven technology, not theories and dreams." Miller kept his cool, even as more council members joined in the criticism. He had spent 5 years developing this design, running countless simulations, testing the materials in small-scale experiments. He knew it would work. Admiral Thompson watched the growing chaos with growing concern. He saw something in Miller's eyes that the others missed, the quiet confidence of someone who knew they were right. "How much?" Thompson asked suddenly, his voice cutting through the noise. Miller blinked. "Sir, how much to build a prototype? Not a full-sized ship, but something big enough to prove your concept." The room fell silent again as Miller quoted a figure. It was high for a prototype, but a fraction of what a traditional warship cost. Thompson nodded slowly. "I have discretionary funds for experimental projects. You'll get your chance, Captain Miller. Build me a prototype, something small but functional. Prove that this isn't just theory." The other council members erupted in protests, but Thompson waved them off. "If he's wrong, we lose some money. If he's right." He left the sentence hanging. Miller gathered his materials, his hand steady despite his racing heart. As he packed up, He heard the council members talking among themselves, still laughing about the joke ship and the waste of resources. Back in his office, Miller sat at his desk and stared at the tortoise's design on his screen. The council's laughter still rang in his ears, but it didn't matter. He had his chance, thanks to Thompson. Now he just had to prove that his impossible ship could do exactly what he claimed. He opened his computer and began writing messages to his team. They had worked in secret for years, developing the materials and running simulations. Now they could finally build something real. As Miller worked late into the night, he thought about all the times throughout history when people had laughed at new ideas. They had laughed at the first submarines, at the idea of flying machines, at the concept of space travel itself. Let them laugh. The tortoise would prove itself when it mattered. The next few months were a blur of activity. Miller's team worked around the clock in a small facility on the outskirts of the lunar base. The prototype took shape slowly, each piece carefully crafted and tested. It wasn't much bigger than a small shuttle, but it contained all the essential systems of the full design. Thompson visited occasionally, watching the progress with interest. During one visit, he pulled Miller aside. "The council is still laughing," he said quietly. "They're calling it Miller's folly behind your back." Miller nodded. "I know, sir, but they won't be laughing when they see it work." "I hope you're right, son," Thompson replied, "because something's coming. Our deep space sensors have been picking up strange signals. Whatever's out there, it's big, and it's heading our way." Miller looked at the prototype, its angular surface reflecting the harsh lunar lights. "Then we better make sure we're ready when it gets here." As he watched Thompson leave, Miller felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The tortoise wasn't just an experiment anymore. It might be Earth's best hope against whatever was coming their way. He turned back to his work, checking and rechecking every system. Let them laugh. Soon they would understand why he had designed the ship this way. Soon they would see that sometimes the best defense wasn't a bigger gun or a faster engine, but something entirely new. The prototype would be ready for its first test flight in a week. Miller had a feeling they would need it sooner rather than later. As he worked, he couldn't shake the feeling that Thompson was right. Something was coming. And when it arrived, the laughter would stop. The prototype tortoise floated silently in space, its angular surface reflecting the distant starlight. Inside the small bridge, Miller watched the readings on his screens with careful attention. The ship had performed perfectly in its first 3 test flights. But today was different. Today they would test its defensive systems for the first time. "All systems ready," Captain, his engineer, Tom Baker, reported from his station. "Power levels are stable, and the absorption grid is online." Miller nodded, his fingers tapping lightly on his armrest. They had an audience today. Admiral Thompson and several other council members were watching from the lunar base's observation deck. Even more importantly, Earth's deep space sensors had detected a large object entering the solar system. Whatever it was, it would reach Earth's orbit within days. "Begin the weapons test," Miller ordered. A small drone moved into position, its weapons pointed at a tortoise. The drone was loaded with standard energy weapons, the kind used by Earth's current fleet. The first shot came without warning, a bright beam of energy striking the tortoise's hull. Miller held his breath, watching the readings. The geometric patterns on the hull lit up, channeling the energy exactly as designed. "Energy absorption at 20% capacity," Baker reported, excitement in his voice. "No damage to the hull. The redistribution system is working perfectly." More shots followed, each one striking a different part of the ship. The tortoise's hull glowed brighter with each hit, the energy flowing through its channels like rivers of light. "Energy storage at 60%, Baker called out. "Sir, these readings are incredible. The system isn't just absorbing the energy. It's actually getting more efficient with each hit." Miller allowed himself a small smile. Years of work, of being laughed at and dismissed, were finally paying off. The tortoise was proving itself. A sudden alarm cut through his moment of triumph. "Captain," his sensor operator called out, "we're picking up something big entering lunar orbit." It's massive, sir." The view screen showed a ship appearing from nowhere, as if a curtain had been pulled away from the stars. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. Sleek, curved, and impossibly large. It made the tortoise look like a toy in comparison. "We're being hailed," the communications officer reported. Miller straightened in his chair. First contact. Humanity's first meeting with an alien civilization was about to happen, and he was sitting in an experimental ship that most of the Defense Council considered a joke. "Put them through," he ordered. The screen flickered to life, showing a humanoid figure with pale, almost translucent skin and eyes that seemed to shift color as they moved. "I am Lord Reed of the Stellar Dominion," the alien announced in perfect English. "We have been observing your civilization and have decided you are ready for elevation." Miller felt a chill run down his spine at the way Reed said elevation. "I'm Captain James Miller of Earth's Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization." Reed's eyes fixed on the tortoise, and his expression changed to one of barely hidden disgust. "What is this craft you operate? Surely this is not representative of your military capabilities." Before Miller could respond, another alien appeared on the screen, this one wearing what was clearly a military uniform. "Lord Reed, with respect, you needn't waste time discussing their primitive vessels. This one appears to be some sort of cargo hauler, barely worth our attention." "Commander Stone," Reed introduced the newcomer, "our military attaché. He is less diplomatic than I, but his assessment appears accurate. Captain Miller, surely you have more appropriate vessels for this historic meeting." Miller felt his face grow hot, but kept his voice steady. "The tortoise is an experimental design, Commander. Its capabilities might surprise you." Stone laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Surprised by this geometric absurdity? It looks like something a child would design. Lord Reed, I suggest we proceed with the standard protocols. This species clearly needs significant guidance." As they spoke, Miller noticed Baker frantically gesturing at his console. The engineer had been running deep scans of the alien vessel, and what he found was troubling. Their weapon systems were powered up, despite their diplomatic words. "Captain," Baker whispered, "their ship's design. It's optimized for offensive capabilities. Almost no defensive systems. They're not here for peaceful contact. They're ready for war." Miller kept his face neutral as he processed this information. The tortoise's unusual sensors, designed to analyze energy patterns for its defensive systems, had revealed what conventional scans might have missed. "We would be honored to demonstrate our ship's capabilities," Miller said carefully. "Perhaps a joint exercise." Stone's laugh was even more dismissive this time. "Exercise? With that? We would destroy it with a single shot. No, Captain, your role is to watch and learn as we demonstrate true space warfare technology." The alien ship began launching smaller vessels, sleek fighters that moved with incredible speed and grace. They performed complex maneuvers around the tortoise, clearly meant to intimidate. "Impressive," Miller admitted, "but appearances can be deceiving." "A lesson you'll soon learn," Stone replied coldly. "Lord Reed, I believe we've wasted enough time with these primitives. Shall we proceed with the next phase?" Reed nodded, his color-shifting eyes showing no emotion. "Indeed. Captain Miller, you will witness the beginning of your world's elevation. Remember this moment, when you first glimpsed true power." The transmission cut off, but the alien fighters remained, circling the tortoise like predators. Miller knew they had just witnessed something important. Not just first contact, but first threats. "Sir," Baker said quietly, "should we return to base?" Miller stared at the alien mothership, thinking about its lack of defenses, about its commander's arrogance. He thought about the years of mockery he had endured, about how everyone had laughed at his primitive design. "No," he decided. "We stay. Run full power to the absorption grid. I have a feeling we're about to get a real combat test of our systems." As if in response to his words, more alien ships began emerging from hyperspace, an entire fleet appearing around the moon. Their weapons were charged, their intentions clear. "They're going to attack," Baker whispered. Miller nodded, watching the alien fleet grow larger. "Yes, they are. And they're going to learn something important." "What's that, sir?" A small smile crossed Miller's face as he watched the alien ships move into attack positions. "They're going to learn why the Tortoise won the race." The Stellar Dominion fleet surrounded Earth's moon, their weapons charging, while on the lunar base, the Defense Council watched in horror. Only Admiral Thompson remained calm, his eyes fixed on the small, angular ship that everyone had laughed at. The real test of the Tortoise was about to begin. The first attack came without warning. The alien fighters opened fire simultaneously, their energy weapons lighting up the space around the Tortoise like artificial lightning. Miller watched calmly as the shots struck his ship's angular hull. "Energy absorption at 30% and rising," Baker reported, his voice steady despite the situation. "The geometric patterns are working exactly as designed, sir." Through the view screen, Miller could see the confused reactions of the alien pilots as their weapons failed to damage the Tortoise. Instead, the ship's unusual surface glowed brighter with each hit, the energy flowing through its channels like liquid light. "Sir," the sensor operator called out. "Multiple ships emerging from hyperspace near Earth's defense stations. They're opening fire on our facilities." Miller's hands tightened on his armrest. The Stellar Dominion had shown its true colors. This wasn't first contact. It was an invasion. On his screens, he watched Earth's conventional warships move to engage the attackers. The sleek human vessels, so proud and powerful-looking, were being torn apart by the superior alien weapons. "Captain," Lord Reed's voice came through the communication system, dripping with fake sympathy. "Observe as your primitive defenses fall. Accept your elevation with dignity, and we may spare some of your facilities." Miller didn't respond. He was too busy watching the energy readings on his ship. The Tortoise's hull now glowed like a small sun, its absorption systems drinking in every shot from the confused alien fighters. "Energy storage at 70%, Baker announced. "Sir, the system is adapting to their weapon frequency. Each hit is being absorbed more efficiently than the last." Commander Stone's voice cut in, his previous arrogance replaced by confusion. "What trickery is this? Your vessel should be space debris by now." More alien ships joined the attack on the Tortoise, apparently offended by its continued existence. Energy beams and plasma bolts struck from all directions. But instead of destroying the ship, they only made it stronger. "Sir," Baker called out, excitement creeping into his voice. "We've reached 90% storage capacity. The conversion systems are ready." Miller nodded, finally allowing himself a small smile. "Send word to Admiral Thompson. Tell him to get our people clear of the lunar defense station." On the main screen, Lord Reed's face appeared again, his color-shifting eyes now showing the first hints of concern. "What are you doing, Captain? What is this ship?" "You called it primitive," Miller replied calmly. "You laughed at its design. Would you like to know why we made it look this way?" Before Reed could respond, Miller gave the order. "Baker, initiate energy conversion. Target the lead ships first." The Tortoise's hull patterns shifted, the stored energy beginning to flow in new directions. The geometric shapes that had absorbed so much power now prepared to return it. "Conversion beginning," Baker reported. "Sir, the efficiency is beyond our simulations. The absorbed energy has been amplified by the redistribution network." The first blast from the Tortoise took everyone by surprise. A beam of pure energy, created from the aliens' own weapons fire, shot out and struck one of the Dominion's larger ships. The alien vessel's shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, might as well have been paper. The beam cut through it like it wasn't there, slicing the ship in half. "Impossible." Commander Stone's voice cracked with disbelief. "That level of power, from that primitive design." Miller watched as his crew targeted more enemy ships. Each shot from the tortoise carried the combined and amplified energy of countless alien attacks. The geometric patterns on the hull, so mocked for their unusual appearance, proved their worth as they channeled the energy with deadly precision. "Your weapons are impressive," Miller transmitted to the alien command ship, "but you never asked why we made our ship able to absorb so much power. You never wondered if there might be a reason for its strange design." The alien fleet began to pull back, finally realizing their mistake. But it was too late. The tortoise, powered by their own attacks, was now the most dangerous ship in the solar system. 98% of Earth's defense stations are reporting heavy damage. The sensor operator reported grimly. "Civilian casualties in the thousands. They hit us hard, sir." Miller felt cold anger replace his satisfaction. The aliens hadn't just attacked military targets. They'd struck civilian areas too, probably hoping to force a quick surrender. "Baker," he ordered, "prepare for wide-range energy dispersion. Let's show them what happens when they threaten our people." The tortoise's hull blazed brighter than ever, its energy channels forming new patterns. The ship that had absorbed so much destruction was ready to respond in kind. "Captain Miller," Lord Reed's voice had lost all its previous condescension. "Perhaps we can discuss terms. Your ship's capabilities are unexpected. We could offer you a place within the Dominion's fleet." "You attacked our civilian stations," Miller replied coldly. "You killed thousands of innocent people, and you did it while pretending to come in peace." The tortoise's energy weapons fired again, this time in a spreading pattern that caught multiple alien ships. Each blast carried the power of dozens of their own weapons, turned against them with terrible efficiency. "Fall back," Commander Stone was shouting to his fleet. "All ships, emergency retreat. That ship isn't primitive at all. It's a demon." Miller watched as the alien fleet tried to escape. Some made it to hyperspace. Others, their engines damaged by the tortoise attacks, could only watch as their own energy was turned against them. "Sir," Baker reported, "we're detecting more Dominion ships approaching Earth, a second wave of their invasion force." Miller nodded grimly. "Good. They can watch what happens to the first wave. They can see what their weapons do when we send them back." The tortoise moved forward, its hull still glowing with stored power. The ship that had been laughed at, mocked as primitive and useless, had become humanity's strongest defender. And it wasn't finished yet. In the Lunar Observation Center, Admiral Thompson watched with a mixture of pride and amazement. The council members who had laughed at Miller's design sat in stunned silence as they watched the tortoise tear through the alien fleet. "Sometimes," Thompson said quietly, "the best weapons don't look like weapons at all." The battle for Earth was far from over. But the aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had judged by appearances, had attacked without understanding. Now they would learn why that was going to cost them dearly. Miller prepared his ship for the next wave of attackers. The tortoise was ready. And this time, no one was laughing. The second wave of the stellar Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of angry wasps. Their ships were different from the first wave. Bigger, more heavily armed, clearly designed for serious combat rather than the easy victory they had expected. Miller watched them approach on the tortoise's screens. His ship's hull still glowed with stored energy from the previous battle, the geometric patterns pulsing with power that made it look alive. "Sir," Baker called from his station, "you need to see these readings. The absorption system, it's changing." Miller moved to look at Baker's screen. The engineer was right. The geometric patterns on the hull weren't just channeling energy anymore. They were adapting, evolving, creating new configurations to better handle the power flowing through them. "The system is learning," Miller said softly. Every shot they fired taught it something new about their weapons. A transmission cut through their observation. Lord Reed's face appeared on the screen, but the alien leader's usual arrogance was gone. "Captain Miller, you have impressed us. The Dominion hasn't lost a fleet engagement in 300 years. Until today." Miller replied calmly. Until today, Reed agreed. But what you see before you is the true might of the Dominion. These are not the light cruisers you faced before. These are our planet killers. The alien ships spread out in an attack formation. Miller could see the truth in Reed's words. These vessels were massive, bristling with weapon ports. Each one looked capable of destroying a small moon. Last chance, Captain, Reed continued. Surrender your ship. Share its secrets with us. The Dominion rewards innovation, even from lesser species. Baker looked up from his console. Sir, the new ships are powering up their weapons. These energy readings, they're off the charts. Miller returned to his command chair. Lord Reed, you still don't understand. The Tortoise isn't just a ship, it's an idea. The idea that sometimes the best defense isn't a bigger gun or a stronger shield. Sometimes the best defense is turning an enemy's strength against them. Reed's eyes narrowed. Then you leave us no choice. All ships, open fire, full power. Destroy that abomination. The space around the Tortoise lit up like a new sun being born. The alien ships fired everything they had. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, weapons that human sensors couldn't even identify. The barrage was enough to destroy Earth's entire defense fleet. But something strange happened when the weapons struck the Tortoise. The geometric patterns on its hull blazed with new colors, forming complex designs that no one had programmed. The ship wasn't just absorbing the energy anymore. It was analyzing it, understanding it, learning from it. Energy absorption at 120% capacity. Baker shouted in disbelief. Sir, the system isn't just storing their attacks, it's improving them. The patterns are reconfiguring to create more efficient energy pathways. Miller watched in amazement as his ship evolved before his eyes. The Tortoise's strange design, which had drawn so much mockery, was proving to be more revolutionary than even he had imagined. It was adapting in real time, becoming something entirely new. Impossible. Commander Stone's voice cut through the command channel. No ship can absorb that much power. You should be vaporized. Should be, Miller agreed. But should be is what people say when reality proves them wrong. Baker, show them what the Tortoise has learned. The ship's response started slowly, a pulse of energy that rippled through its geometric patterns like a wave. Then another and another, each one faster than the last. The pulses merged, forming new weapons that mimicked and improved upon the aliens' own technology. The Tortoise fired. The first shot wasn't just powerful. It was precise, efficient, perfectly calibrated. It struck the nearest alien ship and simply passed through it, the vessel's advanced shields offering no more resistance than fog. The ship didn't explode. It just came apart, split into pieces by an energy beam that understood exactly how its defenses worked. How? Reed demanded, actual fear showing in his color-shifting eyes. How is this possible? Every shot you fired taught us something, Miller explained as his ship continued its attack. Every weapon you used showed us how your technology works. The Tortoise doesn't just absorb energy, it learns from it. And now it's teaching those lessons back to you. The alien fleet's formation broke as ships tried to retreat. But the Tortoise was different now, changed by the very weapons used against it. It moved with new speed and grace, its hull patterns shifting and flowing like liquid metal. Sir, Baker reported, excitement mixing with awe in his voice, the system is still evolving. It's not just learning their weapons, it's improving them, making them more efficient, more effective. Miller nodded. Send the data to Earth. Everything the Tortoise has learned, everything it's becoming. They need to know how to build more. The battle wasn't really a battle anymore. It was a demonstration. The Tortoise moved through the alien fleet like a teacher correcting mistakes, each shot showing the Dominion exactly how much they had underestimated humanity's potential. Lord Reed, Miller transmitted as another alien ship, fell to its own improved weapons. You called us primitive. You laughed at our designs, but you never asked why we made them this way. You never considered that maybe, just maybe, we had seen something you missed." The alien leader didn't respond. His mighty fleet, the pride of the stellar dominion, was being systematically taken apart by a ship they had mocked as primitive, a ship that had turned their own arrogance into a weapon against them. "Baker," Miller ordered, "prepare a full power demonstration. Let's show them exactly what they taught us." The tortoise's hull blazed with energy, the geometric patterns forming new configurations that seemed to bend space itself. The ship that had been laughed at, dismissed as a joke, had evolved into something beyond its creator's dreams. In the Lunar Observation Center, Admiral Thompson watched with a mixture of pride and amazement. "Sometimes," he said to the stunned council members, "the best innovations come from thinking differently, from seeing what everyone else missed." The tortoise prepared to deliver its final lesson to the stellar dominion. Its hull patterns had stabilized into new forms, permanent changes born from the crucible of combat. It wasn't just a ship anymore. It was the future of human space warfare. Miller looked at the alien fleet, at their mighty ships that suddenly seemed outdated and primitive. "Time to show them what humanity can really do," he said quietly. "Time to show them why you should never laugh at something you don't understand." The tortoise's hull began to pulse with power, preparing to demonstrate everything it had learned from the Dominion's attacks. The real revelation was about to begin. The tortoise hung in space, its hull glowing with patterns that had never been seen before. The ship had changed so much during the battle that it barely resembled its original design. The geometric shapes that had once drawn mockery now shifted and flowed with an almost living intelligence. "Final power readings are stable," Baker reported from his station. "The system has finished integrating all the new configurations. Whatever the ship has become, sir, it's ready." Miller looked at his screens, studying the stellar Dominion fleet that still surrounded them. Many of their ships were damaged or destroyed, but dozens remained, including their massive command vessel. Lord Reed's face appeared on the communication screen, his color-shifting eyes now showing a mix of fear and anger. "What have you done to that ship?" Reed demanded. "This goes beyond any known physics, beyond any possible technology." "No," Miller replied calmly. "It goes beyond what you thought was possible. There's a difference." He turned to Baker. "Show them what we've learned." Full demonstration. The tortoise's hull patterns began to pulse in new ways. Energy flowed through channels that reshaped themselves, forming designs that seemed to bend the light around them. The ship wasn't just using the absorbed energy anymore. It was reshaping it, improving it, turning it into something entirely new. The first demonstration came as a wave of pure force that spread out from the tortoise in all directions. When it touched the alien ships, their shields didn't just fail. They reversed, turning inward and crushing the vessels they were meant to protect. "That's impossible." Commander Stone's voice cracked with panic. "Shields can't be reversed." "They can now," Miller replied. "Your own weapons taught us how. Every shot you fired showed us more about how your technology works. The tortoise didn't just absorb your attacks, it understood them." The next demonstration came as beams of energy that didn't so much destroy the alien ships as take them apart, separating them into their component pieces as if they were being unmade. The tortoise had learned how their ships were built, and now it knew exactly how to unbuild them. "Stop this," Reed shouted. "You can't possibly control such power. You'll destroy everything." Miller shook his head. "We control it just fine. The real question is, why didn't you? Why did you build weapons you couldn't fully understand? Why did you attack worlds without thinking about what they might have learned that you hadn't?" The tortoise's final demonstration was the most impressive. The ship released all its stored energy in a carefully controlled burst that spread through space like a web of light. When it touched the alien ships, it didn't destroy them. Instead, it shut them down, turning their own power systems against them. "Their entire fleet is powerless," Baker reported with amazement. "The energy web, it's not just shutting them down, it's rewriting their systems, teaching their ships new rules." Miller stood from his command chair and approached the main screen where Reed's face showed clear defeat. "You came to elevate us," Miller said quietly, "to show us true power. Thank you. You taught us more than you can imagine." "What? What are you?" Reed whispered. "We're human," Miller replied simply. "We look at problems differently. When you build bigger guns, we think about defense. When you focus on attack, we think about turning that attack back on itself. When you laugh at something you don't understand, we use that underestimation to our advantage." The tortoise's hull had settled into its new configuration, the geometric patterns now permanent reminders of everything the ship had learned. Baker's console beeped with new information. "Sir," the engineer reported, "we're detecting more ships entering the system. A lot more." Miller nodded. "The rest of the Dominion fleet, I assume, coming to see why their invincible armada has gone silent." He turned back to Reed. "You have a choice now. You can call them off, tell them what you've learned here, or you can watch as they teach the tortoise even more about your weapons." Reed's color-shifting eyes darted between different screens, looking at his powerless fleet, at the changed tortoise, at the approaching reinforcements. "You would spare us after we attacked you." "We'll spare you because we're not like you," Miller answered. "We don't destroy things just because we can. We learn, we adapt, we improve. And right now, you have the chance to learn something too." The alien leader was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "Send the signal," he ordered someone off-screen. "All ships are to stand down. The invasion is over." Miller watched as the approaching fleet slowed and stopped, keeping their distance from the tortoise. The ship that had been laughed at now commanded the respect of one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. "Sir," Baker called out, "Admiral Thompson is hailing us." The Admiral's face appeared on a secondary screen, a broad smile on his weathered features. "Congratulations, Captain. The Defense Council would like a word with you. Something about funding for a full fleet of tortoises." Miller couldn't help but smile. "Funny how quickly people stop laughing when they see what's possible." "That's how progress works, son," Thompson replied. "Someone sees something nobody else can see. They get laughed at, mocked, dismissed. Then they prove everyone wrong, and suddenly everyone claims they saw it all along." The tortoise began its journey back to Earth, its new hull configurations gleaming in the starlight. Behind it, the stellar Dominion fleet remained powerless, their mighty weapons turned into teaching tools for humanity's newest defense system. "Baker," Miller said as they approached the lunar base, "send all our data to Earth's engineering teams. Everything the ship learned, everything it became. It's time we started building more." "Already done, sir," the engineer replied. "Though I doubt any of them will be quite like this one. The original, the ship they laughed at." Miller looked at his screens one last time, at the alien fleet that had taught them so much without meaning to. The tortoise had changed everything. Humanity's defenses, their understanding of physics, their place in the galaxy. And it had all started because someone dared to think differently, to see possibility where others saw only foolishness. The ship that had been mocked as primitive had evolved into something beyond anyone's expectations. It had protected Earth, defeated an invasion, and changed the course of human history. And it had done it all because people had laughed at it, had underestimated it, had never bothered to ask why it looked so strange. As they docked at the lunar base, Miller remembered all the laughter, all the mockery, all the dismissive comments. None of it mattered now. The tortoise had proved itself in the only way that counted, by turning its enemy's strength against them, by learning and adapting and becoming something new. No one was laughing anymore. And that, Miller thought, was the greatest victory of all.